So a new Harvard-Harris poll came out about what people feel after the Kavanaugh and Ford testimony. And at first glance, it doesn't look good for Kavanaugh because what it shows is that basically 37% say they would confirm him. And let me get the exact number. 44% said they would reject it, with 18% saying that they're undecided still at this point. Now, what I want to discuss in this video isn't those numbers necessarily, though I think it's scary what's going on, as I'll get to in a second. This same poll also then told people, well, what do you think if we told you that all three of the witnesses that Ford gave to say that they were at this party have all said they have no knowledge of this party? All of a sudden, it shifts from 37% saying to confirm Kavanaugh to 57% confirming. It then goes up to 60% if the FBI comes back and says, yeah, we weren't able to find any evidence to confirm this party or that Kavanaugh did anything. Now, what I find most amazing about this is that there is a 20% leap in once you let people know, oh, and the witnesses, the three witnesses that Ford named said they have no knowledge of this. What that tells to me is that most people, or a lot of people at least, are getting their information from the media and they're being lied to. They're not being told, or I won't say lied, but credible information or important information is not being told to them. So what we see in this instance, let me pull this up real quick, is that people don't know. They're being asked these questions, and all they did was see the testimony, and they're like, yeah, she looked believable, so we're going to go with her. No one said they didn't hear, but there's no corroboration for her story whatsoever. None of these witnesses that she names, the three people, have any knowledge of this. In fact, her best friend is one of the witnesses, right? And she claims not only does she not have any memory of this specific party, but she doesn't even know Kavanaugh and doesn't recall ever being at any party with him, with Ford or without Ford. So once people learn that, then all of a sudden the number goes from a low 37% that would want him to confirm all the way to 57% that would want him confirmed. Now, I also read a study, which I mentioned on my last video, I believe, that said, I don't know how, I would assume the group that did this study is biased because I looked at their website and it seems that they're like left-wing watch or something to that effect, trying to point out left-wing bias, but I haven't seen any discrepancy in what they reported, and they said from the three major networks that out of all the hours of coverage they had on the Kavanaugh story last week, only 1% of that coverage ever bothered to mention, oh, by the way, all of the witnesses say they don't have any knowledge of this. And then when you factor that in, like I did the video on like SNL, Jimmy Kimmel, and all these other groups, like basically our culture and what they run, which is the media, television, Hollywood, music, almost all of that is going along with the Democrats, and they're just pushing this idea that Kavanaugh is guilty. He must have did something bad, and they're not giving any of the facts whatsoever. So the average person out there, they don't realize. They're just like, yeah, this looks really bad. All these accusations, where there's smoke, there's fire, something must have happened. That's the end-all be-all. They don't realize even witnesses such as the best friend are like, we can't confirm any of this. And when they do hear that, then the numbers go up. Now, let me say as a caveat here, I think polls can be wrong oftentimes, and I don't think that we should rely on them too much. But when we're talking about in the same poll, the numbers increasing 20% and going from only 37% wanting him to confirm to, oh, by the way, did you know the witnesses, none of them can corroborate her story? It bumps up to 57%. That is something that we should look at. And this isn't like some, Fox News poll. This is a Harvard-Harris poll, which is considered more respected. Again, I'm not the biggest fan of polls. I don't talk about them a lot because I think they're too easy to manipulate. But I think it is relevant to talk about why there was a bump within this poll and how dangerous it is then to have a media that is so one-sided. Trump gave an interview today at the Rose Garden, and he said in one of his comments, he said, yeah, the Democrats, and I include you, media, in that because you are just Democrats. He's absolutely right. This whole escapade has showed that the mainstream media is an absolute farce. It's a joke. It's just a mouthpiece for the Democratic Party, 90% of them. It is absolutely ridiculous. All of the information being pumped out there to people is just, this guy's guilty, he's a bad dude, we always have to believe victims, things of that nature, and they're leaving out all kinds of relevant details, such as she can't corroborate, none of her witnesses corroborate her story, and other details like the prosecutor Mitchell, Ms. Mitchell, that was the one who the Republicans had to interview Ford, released her statement today, just showing all the discrepancies in Ford's statement. She has like 50 points as to why she wouldn't try this case or even bring it to court or anything like that, because there's so many discrepancies that have occurred in Ford's story, but the media is not reporting any of that. So I think it's important. It shows how important controlling the narrative is, and how if you want to be unethical and just smear someone, and we know that's the case. Schumer said as soon as Kavanaugh was announced, we're going to do everything we can to fight this nomination. Media mouthpieces like Chris Matthews came out and said, this should be the Spanish Civil War. We should do whatever's possible to, like, this is what they announced they were going to do from the get-go. So they're not interested in the truth. They're not interested in helping sexual assault survivors or anything of that nature. They're interested in winning a political game. Journalists are not interested, these mainstream journalists, they're not interested in being unbiased or objectively reporting journalism. That's not what they do now. They're mouthpieces. They're intentionally withholding information to the American people. And this poll shows, which I agree with, that once you factor in that the witnesses can't corroborate her story, then it becomes very difficult to use this issue not to confirm. Now, at the end of the day, 60% say confirm, 40% say don't confirm in this poll. But I think there's a lot of people that wouldn't want him confirmed based on other reasons, like answers he gave that have like pre-sexual allegations against him, which I disagree with that. I think he should be confirmed because, to me, I just think the confirmation process should be, are you qualified to be on the court? And unless you're like an extreme radical or have like, no, I don't believe the Constitution at all, we should do whatever, or, I believe the Constitution only as the words written, which means that, it doesn't say anything about women having the right to vote, so I'd be against that. Yeah, those two extreme positions seem crazy to me. But if you have a legitimate legal background, like being a judge, and you have the qualifications, that to me was what these hearings should be about. It shouldn't be that difficult. For the record, even though I would have, and by the way, as I've said before, I'm not so sure how much I would agree with Kavanaugh on. I think that he might be more, particularly on issues of privacy, I'm going, like the Patriot Act and things like that, I would heavily disagree with him. And that's one of the most important issues to me that he would potentially rule on. So, I don't even know that how much I like him. I would have also said that I thought Merrick Garland was qualified for that matter, even if he disagrees with me in a lot of what I would consider policy positions that I have. So that's not where I'm coming at from this. But, okay, if there are people that say he's not qualified for these other reasons, so be it. That's fine. Because I'm not really in that game. I'm not here to defend Kavanaugh because I like his opinions or anything like that. I'm defending the process of innocent until proven guilty. And so I think that it's refreshing to see that so many more people are like, oh, once I realized there's no evidence, and even the corroborating witnesses that or even the witnesses that she gives, one of which is her best friend, have came out, and apparently not only did her best friend Kaiser release a statement previously under penalty of felony saying, I don't know Kavanaugh and I don't recall ever being at a party with him, with or without Ford. But apparently I'm reading reports that she also released another statement just this Saturday that was like, yes, once more I will tell the FBI the same thing. I don't know Kavanaugh and I haven't been at a party. So, I mean, that's pretty damning. You could understand why the other two potential witnesses who were Kavanaugh's friend might have reason to lie, but why would Ford's own friend lie? It just, Now, again, there are people that will say, but this doesn't prove that he didn't commit the crime. Of course not. They could have just not remembered, and that doesn't prove that Kavanaugh didn't do this. But all we have is a he said, she said. What are the evidence? There is no evidence. Okay, well, there were 3 other people there. All 3 of those people say, we don't recall this ever occurred. Not only do we not recall the assault, we don't even recall this party. And so, what do we have to go on? And then when you take into account that Ford's story's changed so many times, this happened in the mid-'80s, she said, so she would have been like 17, 18. Oh, wait, no, that changed to the early 80s. Oh, wait, no, that changed to 82. There were 4 people involved with the assault. Oh, wait, no, there was only 2, but there were 4 boys and 2 girls at the party. Oh, wait, now it's just 4 boys and 1 girl. Yes, I could hear them downstairs when I was in the bathroom. And then in the committee testimony, when she was being interviewed by Ms. Mitchell, she says, oh, wait, no, actually, I couldn't hear them. I just assumed they were talking. So the story's changed over and over. Again, does that mean she's lying and that he's absolutely innocent? No. But there's just, what is there to go on? There's no evidence, and you have her word versus his, and her story keeps changing. And even the witnesses that she claimed could back up at least that this party have occurred have all said we have no memory of it. So, again, I think that it just shows that it's a shame that it's so low, 37% that want him confirmed right now, because the media is withholding all this information from people. And then once they're told, actually, even the witnesses she gave, even one of which is her best friend, says they have no memory of this party, all of a sudden people are like, oh, wow, and it bumps up to 57%. And if the FBI comes back and doesn't have any corroboration of this story, then it bumps up to 60%. So just another example of how terrible the media is, and how I think that most people, more than half people, would say this would not be a reason to get rid of his confirmation if they knew the truth, that there was no evidence whatsoever, that her story continually changed, and even the people she said was at the party have no memory of it.